Hello, everyone. I'm happy to bring Corey in front of you all today. And we're going to talk to you about financial astrology. Chatting with Corey casually over the last few months, he's told me a lot of the fun work he's doing in the last year, especially on financial astrology and some of the real amazing predictions. And I thought, well, let's have him on because I get so many people who ask me about finances. I mean, one of the most common questions people ask me is to look at their chart financially. And I always say no. I never look at people's charts financially because it's the part of astrology I've really spent the least amount of time investigating. Um, you know, I mean, ultimately, everyone wants to go to an astrologer to find security. And most people living in the world live in a rational, practical way. And that means finances are a big part of a person's security. But I've always had this wild man side that as long as I got my knife, I'm going to survive. Just throw me at the top of the mountain, I'll live, no problem. I've just had a strong survival instinct and I've never equated money to security. Instead, as everyone knows, I've dealt with all this inner work, psychological astrology, because I try to figure out what's becoming something that's worth surviving. It doesn't hurt so much that you don't not want to survive, right? But the reality is, most people, so many people, really have a huge need for financial astrology, and it's something I've really neglected. And you've been doing such amazing work that I thought it would be really fun to hear some of your stories and tell us more fully than you've told me in casual talking what you're up to.
Yeah.
Well, let's just start with Bitcoin. Okay, you did some Bitcoin stuff. Everyone wants to know about Bitcoin. So let's just start there.
Yeah, Bitcoin is very hot right now. I was kind of like you, Ernst. I mean, that's why I love studying with you. And I guess I have a lot of eighth house stuff. So I was more into the deep psychology for so long. But, how healthy can your psychology be if you don't have food to eat, right? So, I realized I had to embrace some of those other sides. And, if any of you guys are watching this, don't worry about that. A lot of times as spiritual folks who are into Vedic astrology, we kind of like, ooh, that's financial astrology. That's greedy. That's not spiritual. And I might have had a little bit of some of those ideas in my head at some point. And I got rid of them, thankfully. And I think you guys should get rid of them too. Because like Ernst said, we all need money. We all need resources. And it's also one of the four aims of life in Hinduism, right? So,
Really,
yeah. So I go, last spring at some point, I was talking to a guy, he was mentioning Bitcoin to me, and I kept hearing about it. And when I was younger, I had wanted to buy it very early on in 2010. And then I did the math and realized if I had bought the initial thing I had bought in 2010, I would have $15 million right now. So I went, oh, and I have things in my chart where I don't always act on an idea that I really should have. So amidst doing a lot of my self-help type of work that I was working on this summer, I went, okay, Bitcoin, I really got to look into this. And around the same week that I was studying that, I was studying my own chart, and I happened to watch one of your videos actually where you ramble about the modalities of the wind signs for like 30 minutes. And I have to say thank you so much for that long ramble. You might think, oh, nobody listened to that, nobody appreciated that, nobody cared.
the wind ramble? You mean on the air?
How you talked about how Libra is changing wind and the changing value, and then how Aquarius is fixed value, and how water symbolizes universal value. Water is something that's universally valuable, and the air signs deal with our social connections and thus currency. And I just went, oh, I had this big lightning bolt come off, like Jupiter is about to move into Aquarius with Saturn. And this year, that as I was currently watching it, Bitcoin was at like $8,000 or something ridiculously low. It's now at about 60,000. I was watching it and I realized, okay, Jupiter is wealth. Jupiter is in Capricorn right now, debilitated. We have an economic crash, but this is an earth sign. This is a sign of changing the way the world is. And Jupiter is our wealth foundation. And the eclipse is happening in Gemini, a sign of Mercury, which has to do with trade as well, and wind and currency. And I realized that, okay, what I'm witnessing right now is the beginning of a slow currency change. Um, and I do think that it's pretty safe to say that that has come true. So basically, what I said on my YouTube videos in October, November was that you guys should buy some Bitcoin, basically, like cough, buy Bitcoin, cough, cough was what I kept saying, because I don't want to officially give financial advice. But that was because I knew that when these planets moved into Aquarius on such a long-term transit, that would mean that there would become basically when you hear about Bitcoin up until this year, this is what I told all my friends, is that every time I heard about Bitcoin, oh, but it's so volatile, it goes up and down so much. I said, once it goes into Aquarius, that's not going to happen. Like once Jupiter and Saturn move into Aquarius, the great conjunction everybody talked about, but no one knew what the hell it meant. I went, this is what it means. It means there's going to be a slow upgrading onto a digital currency. And this is what kind of like the whole elite world has probably wanted for a long time, and, because it makes it like easier to track people and control stuff and all. And I don't want to get into all that, but I think that has to do with it a little bit. And so yeah, I just looked at it from a variety of angles from my own birth chart. I looked at the birth chart of Bitcoin. I looked at the transits, and I just pulled the trigger. And it worked out really well for me. That was like the initial big picture thing that I really have to thank you for, was making this connection about the wind signs and the modalities and the big picture shift that was about to happen. Then, I saw a bunch of other little things that were more details, like, oh, it's going to go up or down or the next day or this or that. But
did your friends follow up on any of your advice?
The ones with good Jupiters followed up, as usual.
How much did they bank?
My own mother, I got like 300% increase for my own mother.
Great.
That was pretty cool because I've obviously borrowed a bunch from her and stuff over the years, so that felt really good. Yeah. And yeah, the people who had afflicted and starved Jupiters by Venus or Mercury, they went, oh, but it's so volatile, and then never heard the rest of what I was saying. Or they went, oh, okay, I'll just wait for it to go back down. I said, that's exactly what a bad investor does, just so you know. And then they were like, okay, I'm going to keep doing that. And then they did that. But, a good investor just buys on it once a week, regular. They don't look at what the price is, because if you do that, you won't buy, and then you'll never build a position, if that makes sense. And so the idea is to be regular and to buy like, this is that time of the month that I always buy. So a lot of the other, sorry to break up for a minute. Anyways, a lot of the other people that had more afflicted fourth houses or fifth houses or Jupiters just kept waiting for it to go down. And I was telling them it's not going to go down. I'm telling them next year it will be 100K. So at 19K, it is down. Think of it that way. But no, most people didn't want to listen.
Definitely a scary point. Well, that's great. I know you also told me that you kind of started this whole focus, not that this is your only focus, but a bigger focus on financial astrology because, was it a friend that you have that was playing, was it blackjack?
Yeah, I had a friend who was wanting to go to the casino, and he was wanting to take trips to the casino. And it's a little bit of a drive, and I guess there were different options. He was somewhere in the middle of the country, and he offered me 50% of the take. So I was, and he paid me like whatever for the hour or the time that it took to do it. But he said, I'll give you 50% of it. So that made me think, okay, Corey, I'm going to really work a little bit harder here. And I used your awesome techniques for those of you who are studying astrology, the Kakini techniques, these coin techniques you can use that Ernst has taught on his website. And it can, using the sound of your first syllable of your name and the city, you can figure out what cities you will gain a lot from coin-wise and what cities will take more coins from you or more time from you. And so I did that for him and found good casinos to go to in his area. And then I doubled down with transits and mainly really focusing a lot on the transits because there's about a 3-month window he gave me. And that was it. And in one in one trip, he just playing slots, which is no skill whatsoever. Like slots are complete random. He got one of those 3,000 wins on one slot. I was like, wow, that's really cool. And then he made one more trip, and then he made some then, and then did like a scratch off. He even made a scratch off lottery at the gas station during that window. He just went for it and made like $500 that way. So he overall took in for both of us like over $4,000.
Cool.
And that was really fun, and that made me go, gosh, Corey, like, why aren't you doing this for yourself? Like, why do you so that was a major positive reinforcement. I felt like the universe was trying to get me to get into this.
I think it's really cool because, I know you have Rahu in the second house, and I think it's really remarkable that at such a young age, you're really tapping into this ability to do the financial astrology. Because Rahu, the house Rahu's in is always, I find, a house that we're going to develop as an astrologer. Like I've done a lot of relationship stuff. The first conference I was invited to, I taught relationship compatibility. One of the first courses, the first kind of new thing I discovered with Vedic astrology was some relationship compatibility stuff, because I have Rahu in the seventh house, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really cool to see you, have your Rahu in the second house, developing this financial stuff. And so I kind of think a lot more of that will develop for you because, that's where your Rahu is and that's where you have to go.
I thought that exact same thing, actually. I had a thought about that. And I went, yeah, it's like my other teacher, Ernst, he's had to spend way more time on seventh house stuff than the average astrologer. And then I was like, oh, Ryan, he's got Rahu in the first, and he's done a lot of self-help first house things. And yeah, Rahu seems to really lead us into an area that is not just for us, but for the whole evolution of society.
Yeah, we'll definitely use that because, we're here to develop our Rahu house. And if we're an astrologer, we're going to use it to, shine light on that dark house.
True.
Right?
Yeah, that's another good. Yeah. Okay. I didn't think about that.
That's what we're going to be excited about, and so that's, of course, what we're going to end up showing other people and teaching other people and doing for other people ultimately.
That makes so much sense. I mean, for me, it's been profound, the changes that have happened within me alongside this. And I also should speak to that because that's another good point. The people that I've known who have not done well with crypto in this whole same amount of time have been people who are not constantly working on changing their abundance mentality. I mean, I'm reading all these freaking self-help books, you know what I mean? Constantly using my creative imagination to try to imagine a higher state of abundance, just doing the work internally, and then you see the external benefits. So that has happened as well.
Yeah, definitely.
It's funny that, but I think I'm really suited to do financial astrology now because I also have K2 in Libra, the sign of the trader, the sign of the merchant.
Totally.
And it was in a Charnavamsha.
Salesman, just so people know, Corey was always a good salesman. He worked in sales before being an astrologer and was very competent. So don't let him show you his used car, but so he's got that Libra quality, which is, the trader.
Exactly. And I entered into a Libra Charnavamsha Dasha this year. And
okay.
Yeah. And I'm running Saturn, Venus ruling the 8th, and Libra and K2, and it's in the 11th.
Nice.
Paycheck. So I got some paychecks from all of this. But anyways, I wanted to share a couple of the more specific timings and things that I thought were a little bit more accurate. Because sure, anybody could have just been saying Bitcoin's going to go up and not have like a technical reason why, and then claim they're a great astrologer, but they were just saying that and then they got right. So I invested it only in September when it was at 10,000. So I didn't get into it there are people that got into this when it was at $100 or something. And they're retired now, but basically in November of 2020, Bitcoin started to peak and all of November, Bitcoin was ascending. And what's funny is Scorpio has a ridiculously high amount of Ashtaka points for the Bitcoin chart. It's 41 points. Nothing else is anywhere close to that. And we have seen it every time Scorpio things happen, Bitcoin explodes. And it's kind of perfect because Scorpio is hidden crypto. You know what I mean? It's about hidden. Yeah. So in November 2020, it was going like that. No one had any reason to expect that there would be any dip at all coming up through that whole month. But once the sun moved into Sagittarius, sign of falls from a height, only Ernst teaches that. No one else, no Western astrologers would know that little tidbit, but Sagittarius, for those watching, is a sign of falls from a height. In November 2020, everyone expected to go up to 20K in a matter of a couple days. It was at a record high at 19K. I saw the moon was waxing and crossing a very strong Mars in Aries. Remember when Aries was in Mars? Yeah, Mars was there in Aries. And it was in the nakshatra of Revati also, which we know. Now, you guys, nakshatra techniques aren't what you should live and die by with this, but Revati literally means the wealthy ones. It's Rai, wealth, Vat, possessing, the ones possessing wealth. It's a major star I've found for like 1%ers and big investor people as well. And this moon conjuncting Mars, I said no. People are going to be impatient, want to take gains. They're not just, the market's going to dip. And that was exactly what happened. And I could even, if you want, like share
Sure.
Share like some,
would like to know anything that you're doing, is to know how to do it.
Yeah, like now this was let me see, yeah, this is going to be here. You can see that this was the dip that we had on the 25th. See, everyone, it was going up, up, up. Everyone thought it would keep going up like that. And then it went way down to 1600 from like 1800, which is, pretty large percentage drop. And here, let me share. Oh yeah, this is this little text message where I told my buddy, it says November 24th, Tuesday. You know what I mean? I told he's asking me, when should I sell? I told him, yeah, the window will end tonight, so it's really for tonight. Keep that in mind to sell. And then the next 2 days, because the moon was in Pisces, it was really strong right then. And I told him, sell the next 2 days because the moon will cross Mars and we're going to see a downtick. And that's exactly what we saw happen. And that's what that other image was showing. This is probably the trader view of the chart. So we saw a major dip down, and it took a while for it to get.
Yeah, that was quite a serious dip, actually, when you look at the overall profile of it.
Exactly. And that was Mars's Vakra. You know how it's cool how Mars is Vakra, crooked. He made that chart crooked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then what's funny is basically just did the same thing 2 more times with the next 2 months. It happened to be where they kept thinking, oh man, it's about to explode again. So then that was in November. Then on the 21st of December, when moon was crossing that same Mars again, it was now in Taurus, the sign of wealth. And so that around the 21st of December, everyone thought, oh my God, Bitcoin's exploding. And a friend of mine, he told me, we were chatting, and I think he was asking me, I have the message somewhere. He goes, be careful, there's a bloodbath coming soon. And I'm expecting that to come really soon. So I wrote, oh yeah, it's going to come. It's going to come the next 2 days or so. And then this is what we saw. Let's see. Yeah, I'll just pull that. So yeah, he wrote here, be careful, bloodbath coming December 22nd. Actually, that was on the 21st, but I think because he was in another part of the country, it was the 22nd at that time. But then it wrote, yeah, it could be today or tomorrow with the moon crossing Mars. And then this is what we had, another dip. See, December 20th, we had it, look, exploding upward. And then,
really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, less of a dip here because it wasn't as strong. Mars was in Taurus and not really strong in Aries.
And of course, the moon was more stable in Taurus than it was going to be in Aries.
Sorry, that was the other. You're right, exactly. I meant to say that too. Moon in exaltation, yeah. So, so I still though expected a little bit of a dip to happen, but not as much, because that was around the exact same time that Jupiter and Saturn were moving into Aquarius, and that was going to create a whole nother floor for Bitcoin. And that's what we saw right here. That's what this whole thing is a new ceiling or a floor of like 40,000 being the new baseline of Bitcoin. And everybody was like, oh, it's about to drop. No. It was just, I was like, no, this is the new floor for it.
Very cool.
So that was kind of a fun one too. And if you would believe it, even a third, the same exact thing, January 21st, the third time, here, let's pull this up. This one was kind of fun because I predicted both the time it would dip and the time it would go back up. But I was a little off. Okay, you guys forgive my notes here. That looks so crazy, but I wrote this was an astrology crypto group that I got into at this point, and just other people who are experts on this stuff. So I shared my astrological thoughts. The moon's crossing the cruel Mars today or tonight. Makes sense for things to dip down today and tonight. And then after that, moon will aspect Venus and Jupiter. So my guess is that will burst back up sometime Thursday morning around Thursday. And then this full moon is going to be huge for crypto, I think. Now, I wasn't correct about it dipping back up quickly. It took a little bit longer. So that was the thing that I was incorrect at. But then look at this full moon explosion right here, so I predicted that, you know what I mean? The full moon would basically go from 31,000 to 38,000. Wow. And then this was, I guess this is more of the technical trading analysis. That little point is the dip that I said on this day, you guys, it's going to go down. Everybody, again, everybody's like, it should just go way up. So that was kind of cool to have seen that. And again, I said it would go back up maybe around here. I was wrong there, but I did predict the full moon having that huge surge there. Gotcha. So I think that, this is not perfect, but I mean, the amount of many thousands of dollars I could have made a guy for off of this information is just uncanny.
And this last one's a good lesson of just how more important conjunctions are than aspects. Conjunctions are just the heavy players for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
I'm learning with each time that the applying and separating aspects I have found to work really well. The same things we use in Tajika Prajna, but just in the...
Yeah, I agree. I think Tajika works better for this kind of stuff, Tajika aspects.
Yeah. I didn't make any notations of it, but a lot of times when I would notice, the moon's about to sextile Venus or Mercury or trine that or something, would see a really big explosion. In fact, the next... I wrote it down somewhere. I don't know. There's about to be a full moon in Libra when the sun is in Aries, and the full moon in Libra, that's probably going to be when Bitcoin reaches a record high, because the moon will be in Libra and will be trining that Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius. That is not a conjunction though, but I do think that that's going to be a really strong time.
Cool.
So I don't know. I mean, those are some fun ones. I'd like to talk about how using just tropical Vedic astrology and understanding the stuff you've taught gives me an immense amount of secret weapons in this whole game.
Well, I think it's great that, you're taking the techniques of Vedic astrology and just use them for what you want to do. And because that's really what good techniques are, universal techniques. There's not a special technique for this or that. You learn your techniques and you apply them to this or that.
Yeah.
And that's really the way that astrology's been going over the last about 120 years, in the direction of let's just find techniques that cover all the bases, rather than memorizing 500 financial yogas, or something like that, but really just learning, statistically reliable, reputable systems of astrology and techniques that you can apply to any area. And so it's great to see you doing that with the financial part of it.
Yeah. I'd like to say a few techniques that I think, a few other ones that I think work well too. because yeah, it was really surprising to me that almost everyone was just trying to do birth chart stuff. Like,
Yeah, I've never found birth charts to be the best way for predicting world events.
yeah, and like yeah, like if you hired someone to do okay, how's this corporation going to do? You hire a financial astrologer to see how Pepsi is going to do for a year. I've been on these astrology forums for decades, like you too, probably, Ernst, and everyone just wants to go, okay, when did Pepsi get incorporated? Let's look up the birth date of when this happened. When did the US Constitution get signed? And then they always debate, like, that's not the right time, and this was when they stamped it. And it's because you're not meant to do any of that, right?
I never liked that. I
Yeah.
get that with world events at the beginning. I just said, this is not working. I'm not going to mess with this. There's better ways to do it.
Yeah. And so I can't say that I'm an expert on the mundane ingress charts. I really want to get into all that stuff. If I'm going to keep doing this, I pretty much have to. But when it comes to techniques that so far I know work well, yes, the birth chart of Bitcoin does work and it does make sense, but that's just one thing. And I don't think that we should rely too much on the birth chart of Bitcoin or on the birth chart of any of these other altcoins. That's the thing, is everybody's just sending me, oh, look at the chart of, this coin, and then look at the guy who made this coin's birth chart. I'm like, come on, people, there's so many other things you can do. And so we could do it, if a guy asked me how Pepsi.com is going to do over the next year, I would just cast a progeny right then. I would just ask, how is it going to do? And just that would be one way. And then you get such a more zoomed in kind of perspective, right? Than trying to read the entire life of Pepsi and then zero in on this month or a year. So yeah, so prajna is one of the amazing things that I have seen actually work like really, really well. And I made an example on my channel for those who might be interested, but there was a guy who paid me to see, well, this one crypto coin, XRP, is this the key to my abundance? He wanted to invest a lot into it. And people were saying this is going to be the one that the banks take on. And so it was like, there was a lot of hype around it. And the progeny said, yeah, this is something you can make a little money off of. Like, but this is not that thing that you're looking for. And that proved to be true. XRP actually got sued by the SEC and got taken off of the main stock exchange, Coinbase, that everyone does. So basically, it got trashed and it hasn't gone up. And so that project turned out to be really accurate. So that's like one thing you can do. Then, if you're going to do birth chart, which again, there is great things you can do with that, don't just do transits. Like, those work. And a lot of Western astrologers have made good predictions on Bitcoin based on the transits, but you could look at Ashtaka Varga, you can look at the Varshafala. That's those two things alone. I've spent days and days doing that.
Yeah, those are my favorite. I really like the Varshafala for those types of things.
Yeah. So the Varshafala for this year, Varshafal, the Venus is right on top of the Punya Saham in the 5th house or something like that. I can't remember the house, but it's looking very good for this year. In 2017, Bitcoin skyrocketed all that year, right when Jupiter moved into Scorpio, which again has that really high Ashtaka Varga points. It's the 4th house for Bitcoin, the house of fortune and deposits. When that happened, we had basically an entire year of just Bitcoin going up and up and up. So I looked at it and I went, oh, and then it crashed. How could we have seen that? How could we have seen that ahead of time? There were a lot of indicators. Basically, the sun conjuncted Saturn in basically right the whole time it was going up, and the sun was in Sag. And right when it went into Capricorn, it was that strong Saturn in 2018 in Capricorn. It crashed. And that was the 6th house of Bitcoin's chart from being a Leo. And the 6th house is like obstacles and debts and things. And it was also, I forgot it. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, the Sahams. The day that would have been the best possible day to sell for many, many years, up until this year, there was a day in 2017 that it reached its peak, and the moon was right on top of the Laba monetary gain Saham on that day. and then it left it, and from then it would be years until it would be another good time to sell. So that was
Wow.
So there's a lot of fun things you can do with Varshafala. Look at the Sahams. You'll find a lot of really neat correlations there. And then also I find that since I still don't know how to predict the market actually, what I focus on is I can predict the traders and what they're going to do by reading the Avashtas of Moon and Mercury.
Okay, yeah. Like the traders and the collective.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you can predict that, you have a lot of power. I mean, that's a powerful tool.
Right? So, like you were just saying, good techniques are good techniques. So the exact same Avashta things y'all are going to learn from Ernst's videos are the exact same things that I just applied to financial astrology. And so I say, oh, yesterday I sold some Bitcoin because the moon had, once it applied to Jupiter, I figured that's the peak for this moment. And then it's going to apply to Mercury. It's going to starve that Mercury, though. That's a trader, and he's going to be not enjoying that waning dark moon on him. And the market will go down a little bit. And it did. It went not a lot because, again, we're in this overall really big, strong time. But yeah, there was a little tip down, from the altcoins and the other things that are more volatile. And then, when the moon, anyways, just these Avashtas is all I was trying to say, just
so you can work those ups and downs and make a little here and a little there.
exactly. Yeah. If you were a day trader, you should really learn those. I'm overall not trying to be a day trader, trying to be a little bit more of just plant my seeds in the right place and can go back to having fun doing what I want to do and then just take a paycheck when I want to. Another thing that works really well is the this idea of the manifesting and separating strength that Mercury and Jupiter will give.
Okay, the manifesting and yeah.
Or the second strength thing, yeah.
The second strength, so Jupiter, Mercury, and the Lord of a house manifested.
Yes. So that's another really good principle and technique to use when you're, when you're, reading these things and trying to predict the market. But if you know these Avashtas, that's a really good secret weapon. For example, Western astrologers predicted a major bull run on 225 just a week or two ago when Venus entered exaltation. I went and looked and I was like, I bet there's some simple, obvious reason for that. And it was because Venus would enter exaltation that day. I neglected to say that. And everybody was telling me, Corey, what do you think? Blah, 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 like in that group and all. I was like, no, this is not going to happen. Because the sun was in the 8th house of the Bitcoin chart in Pisces. Pisces has 19 Ashtanga points. It's ridiculously unsupported. But the main reason was the Avashta, Venus entering exaltation is going to really hurt the sun. That's his enemy. That's going to starve the sun. But Venus is exalted in the birth chart of Bitcoin at like 0 degrees right there. So everybody was like, once Venus hits its Venus return, it's going to like explode. And that to me just seemed like too simple of an assessment. And so what happened was more of the starvation of Ashta of Sun Venus, and likewise, a lot of people are predicting this huge explosion of Bitcoin in the middle of May when Jupiter enters into Pisces. And I do think that that's going to be overall good, but I really don't want to promise a major explosion right then because it's going to be starved by that exalted Venus.
Point the Venus there. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I do think that later on around May, though, there are a lot of other good things. Venus and Mercury will cross the 11th cusp of Bitcoin, which is in Taurus. They'll be very strong. So there's going to be, overall, this year is just an amazing year for Bitcoin. We all pretty much know that. I don't want to predict anything specifically in this video because I'm still trying to learn a lot. I do think I could predict, or I could state that I think that at some point by like August or further, we will see some sort of government obstruction of the Bitcoin. Like they'll need to regulate it more, or there will be some sort of change, or it will just start hitting a more of a bearish going down sort of tick. Based on the idea of the sun and Saturn opposing each other and starving each other, and Jupiter will retrograde back into Aquarius with Saturn then and be starved as well.
Gotcha.
What do you think about that, Ernst?
I mean, that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I haven't really done a whole lot with finances. I've always wanted to do more mundane astrology, and this is really just part of mundane astrology world event, things that impact the entire world. But I just never seem to have time to really involve myself in it heavily. I did a little more of it in my early days when I wasn't as busy. I'd have a little more time to do some world events. But I just haven't found the time. It's always dealing with the individual for me.
Yeah.
So
I feel like it's kind of fun, and I feel like I do have a good knack for some of these worldly events things, maybe because of having K2 and Libra or something. But I do really need to focus more on mundane astrology. In case you want to do any courses on that, Ernst, just throwing it out there.
I have a lot of information on it. The module in Kala is a good place to start. I also have some new ideas I've wanted to play with and try, like different ideas for the beginning of the Lunar New Year, things like that, just to create some more, I have some ideas for trying out a different year chart.
Yeah.
Because there are different ways to calculate the year and stuff like that. Maybe we can talk about that sometime, and you could play with it and see how you like it. I don't want to talk about these things in front of a lot of people because I don't want people saying, "Oh, Ernst said to do it this way," when it's just an idea that happens. The next thing I know, people are using it as if I've tested it, and it's just an idea I want to test.
The basic idea is like when the moment the sun enters Aries, we cast a chart for all the different parts of the planet.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's the solar new year.
Yeah.
The lunar new year is basically done at the new moon conjunction before the sun enters into Aries. That's how it's done in India. Okay. But there are other years out there. Calendar systems are a very interesting part of astrology. And sadly, a lot of calendar systems have become corrupted or misunderstood. A lot of research needs to be done in the calendars. In the old astrology books, they often had sections on the calendar. Time was so important. There's a whole system of astrology based on time that's been sort of forgotten. There are some people that do practice it in India still. They don't look at planets; they just use the time. The Vara, Tithi, Nakshatra, just all the time factors. And in Kala, I have a page called Kala Jataka. It's a pop-up, and it gives all the time factors. And I think those are a really important part to start developing in astrology for everything, really, but especially world events. But I can talk to you about that at some point and give you this one idea to that you can do some tests with. But yeah, and so right now you are mostly doing this for yourself and your friends, breaking these market things and helping you, balance out your income and getting your house fixed up now that you have extra money, probably, right?
Yeah. Ideally, had to replace my heating unit, $5,000 AC and heat thing, and got to cover that through this stuff, and paid my property tax and other important things. But yeah, America's no place to be a poor person. That was one good advice my father gave me when I was younger.
It costs so much to have anything done.
Yeah.
Like your toilet gets clogged and it costs $1,000 in America, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So either you do it yourself or you go spend your time making money.
Yeah.
So I hear you. And you're okay. So how about on a personal level? What if people come to you about their personal finances? They don't care about the world market. They don't care about Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
But are you doing financial readings for people where?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing I like to do is just tell, like, okay, so you can read the general financial karma situation. This is what would happen if you're on autopilot, probably, and just tell them this is what it looks like. And then you can also tell them about what planets, what things, what endeavors are going to get you ahead in life using the awesome Gemini course that you taught. Not going to give that away here. You guys go and study that with Ernst, but using those techniques are really, really reliable. Those are very helpful. Also,
and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
great.
You got Mars doing that. Maybe real estate's more your thing. I have Moon and Venus. Moon is a Vaishya. I have Moon hitting the 11th, so I knew trading was going to work. And K2 also, which K2 is actually the planet of cryptocurrency. If there was, I mean, of course, it's not an embodied graha. I'm not trying to break any rules here, but K2 is a major planet of cryptocurrency. The moment I finally pulled the trigger, K2 was with the moon, and I didn't even plan it on the ascendant. And I was like, wow. But you know, cryptography, codes, coding, K2 makes.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
And of course, K2 is the astronomy of it all.
Yeah. So I also gained from astronomy. No, so yeah, you can, that's one thing you can do is learn what someone, not everyone should be doing this. Not everyone should be doing crypto. I'm not trying to say that. And so you can kind of look, you can have a session with someone to see what might be the best thing for you. And then speak to them about just their kind of wealth capacity overall. And since I've had to struggle so much with that, I definitely feel like I know a lot of the other things that people have struggled with when it comes to that. And then yeah, you can, you know, you can time it just like you can time anything else out. And then from there, if someone is interested, like there are people that are, you know, hitting me up about cryptocurrency now because of what I've been saying. And I'm open to the idea of helping anyone else out about that as long as you're respectful and nice. You know, yeah. I especially if you want to do the gambling casino thing, if you give me 50%, I will look at your chart. I won't just do it for anyone, but I'm open to this. And I would honestly, ideally in the future, I think it would be really cool. So I'm just kind of planting the seed out there. It would be really cool to work with like a team of different astrologers, perhaps using different systems, a tarot reader or a, you know, another, a Western astrologer or, you know, different people and work for some sort of a team that maybe works for a different investment firm. Who knows? But just to kind of build this up in a really scientific way, just for the love of astrology, if nothing more.
It's a fun place to make predictions because, you know, the great thing about predicting world finances is it's not predicting doom and gloom. It's a real fun way to just have fun watching astrology work, take satisfaction in making a good prediction. When we deal with people's personal lives, there's always so much stuff that we don't want to predict because they'll cry if we do, you know, because life is hard on a personal level. You know, bad things happen to people. And predicting these mundane events, especially finances, is just such a non-threatening area to predict. You can just have fun, say things. It's not, you're not going to hurt anyone's feelings.
Yeah.
You know, no,
yeah.
Compared to other things we're asked to predict about.
Yeah, like, you know, you and I don't always want to have someone crying every day when we're talking about astrology. You know what I mean? No, I'm just playing. But yeah, there's truth to that. And I also like the idea that it you know, this Ernst, like a lot of my issues in life have been with this, you know, being a young man and being in all this stuff, being rejected. And so naturally I really like it. My ego likes it when other men are like, wow, he nailed that. And this is an objective data set that I cannot deny. And I would always, you know, like chicks are just always more open to this stuff. But a lot of my guy friends, being a skater, I'd always just get ridiculed for this stuff always growing up. So it's really fun and validating for them to want to pay me now and be like, yeah, could you take a look at this for me? And it provides this like objective data set so that I really know if what I've been telling people or whatever is working. You know, you get to see it quantified in numbers. And so that's also very validating for any astrologer just to see that their techniques really are working. And I gotta say, you know, you're the best. I gotta just give you credit. Like you have the best techniques on the planet. So
okay, well, I'll maybe take credit for that. And sadly, I don't even have hard time to use them anymore, you know, because I'm so busy trying to teach them. But yeah, I mean, every astrologer needs to. Any astrologer wants to predict things. I think ultimately we're always predicting something. If someone comes in and, you know, we tell them what's going to help them, or we understand their psychology, we're predicting their psychology. We're predicting what's going to help them. You know, we're always predicting, and so it's really important to predict something that so a person gets the confidence. And it can be anything, but just to get confidence in their technique, confidence in astrology.
Yeah,
it's the most important thing for people to get. And so it's just important to do. And like I said, it doesn't have to be an atomic event, but we have to see ourselves doing well. And then a person really starts growing fast and then embraces other astrological challenges as they come. So anyway, it's always fun to hear what you're into. I think because you do have Rahu in the second, this will be a long-term thing for you, the whole financial astrology. And we'll see what kind of amazing work you do as it continues. And of course, there's never going to be an end to the things you get to predict, because when it comes to predicting the crazy events, nothing is volatile as the market.
Yeah. And
it's really an up and down thing in the world.
Yeah. And I'm not perfect. I'm not guaranteeing anything.
Sure, of course not.
You guys who apply yourselves in the same way will probably do just as well.
Well, we'll see. I can try.
But yeah.
Hopefully try. But you got some good ideas that I think will help people start with it and make some predictions, because it's not, the best predictions are usually made in pretty simple ways. And it's just a simple thing that the people who've missed the predictions didn't see, but it's not always this complicated mess. It's usually something simple like, hey, this Avashta here, I don't care that the planet's going to go into exaltation,
Yeah, like the modalities of the wind signs.
Yeah.
I mean, you made me so much money, Ernst, by just babbling about that for so long.
I do take 50% from my babbling, so send it on over.
Okay.
So anyway, it's really understanding the basics, of course, that are the key. Like you said, 30 minutes of hearing some basic stuff about the signs helped you make a prediction or understanding that. So great.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to tell us?
About cryptocurrency, not in particular. I guess I would say a few thoughts I have on it. You might not need to live or die by this as a prediction, but I wrote something down. Well, that full moon is going to be around 329, 328. That will be, the sun will be in Aries and the moon will be full in Libra. That's one thing that I think is going to be a pretty good window for it. And then I also think around like April 13th, April 14th, we'll probably see a huge surge up until the 19th of April. And then it's hard to say if it just keeps going up from there or if we get a little pullback, and then later in May it goes up. But it's looking like it's going up either way. So
cool.
Yeah, I don't know. That's it. Pretty much.
Well, thank you very much. We'll see how many people, in 2 months, I made lots of money on this tip.
I hope so.
So, okay, well, great to talk to you. I hope it all continues to really go well in this department.
Thanks, Ernst. Thanks a lot.
Okay.